Hey everyone. So one of the biggest challenges about being a Christian is, how does this change thing work? How do I become transformed? And more specifically, because we are Christ followers, how do I become transformed more and more into the image of Christ? Because don't you so often find, and don't you too often find, that I still have some of my old life, my old self, my old desires, right? And too often it feels like maybe transformation isn't happening as quickly as I want it to be. Now, as it happens, the scriptures have a lot to say about that, and there are a number of angles with which we can answer that question. However, today we're going to look at one of the main ways that the Spirit works transformation into our life. And so we're going to go to a great helpful passage when it comes to this idea of the Spirit transforming our lives. It is a passage, if you've been with us in the Bible Read Equip, it's a passage that you looked at under the heading Reading the Bible Theologically. The passage that Paul gives us concludes with a verse that, taken on its own, can seem to mean one thing. But just like when someone is starting a business, it's all about location, location, location. So when it comes to the location of verses in Scripture, it is always about context, context, context. And so what we're going to do is we're going to think theologically. We're also going to dig deep into the context of Scripture. And once we've really understood what Paul is trying to get at, then we're going to come back to this verse and hopefully have a more thorough understanding of how the Spirit works transformation in our lives. And so here's the verse. This is a verse that has made it into so many of our Christian songs, and our Christian language is so saturated with these ideas, and it really is a wonderful, freeing verse. But here it is, 2 Corinthians 3 verses 17, which says, "Now the Lord is the Spirit," which, by the way, just helps us understand the divinity of the Spirit. The Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. Now, so many songs probably come to mind right now, right? And so often this verse, taken on its own, means maybe even good things, but things like, oh, well, the Spirit needs freedom in this place, or the Spirit needs freedom to move in our Sunday services, or maybe the Spirit gives me freedom to run, freedom to dance, right? And maybe some of those ideas are present elsewhere in Scripture. But if we follow what Paul is trying to say in this verse, that really isn't what he is meaning. Because at the end of the day, this passage is about how the Spirit brings freedom and transformation into our lives. Now, just to give you a bit of a heads up as to the argument that Paul is building here, in the preceding verses, Paul is comparing the giving of the law with the giving of the Spirit, where the giving of the law was such a big deal in the story of Israel, and understanding the holiness of God and what God's will was for their lives. And as Paul compares the giving of the law, which was a good thing, with the giving of the Spirit, which he's arguing is a far superior thing, as we compare and contrast the giving of the law with the giving of the Spirit, the answer is all in there. And so as we go into today's module, let's come with open hearts. Let's come with teachable spirits. Let's hear God's invitation to his role in our transformation. And most importantly, we have to move from conversation to action, right? And so we're going to find a way to take this great idea and trust God with regards to how we obey him and how we respond to his voice in our lives.